My name is Francisco. I'm technically the third. My grandpa, he's from a place called Colotlan, Jalisco. And if anything, that's where it all began for me, for Charro Azteca, for my company, which was when he was in Mexico, he created cintos piteados. So he used to embroider them and make charro gear. My dad is the junior, and from there they moved to a place called Villanueva, Zacatecas, which is where Antonio Aguilar is from. So charreria was super important in our family, and he was a charro. He came, of course, like a lot of our parents, they migrated to up north to have a better opportunity for themselves and for their children, and they landed in Bell, California, a suburb in southeast Los Angeles, and that's where I was born. And of course, my parents still had the passion for charreria, and my grandpa and everything. The thing about it is, where the hell are you gonna have a horse here in LA? And if you can't have a horse, you better have the money. So we were poor. So I grew up in Bell. I went up to the schools here. I went to Willon Elementary, Nimitz Middle School, and Huntington Park, and to Bell High School. So I grew up, especially around those times, where we try to find ourselves as an adult, like maybe a teenager, and the only role models I had were African American singers, Tupac, Biggie, or even metal like Iron Maiden. So I always kind of grew up trying to find myself, and not knowing that shit, my dad, my pops, my grandpa were coming from a very rich tradition, which is charreria. It's the freaking national symbol of Mexico, you know. And I didn't realize it until I graduated high school. I started going into the workforce, and then it's like, what the hell am I? You know, I'm a Chicano. Am I from here? Am I from there? Like, no soy de aquí, no soy de allá. And then until my son was born, it's like the fourth, Francisco the fourth. That's when it's like, damn, what am I gonna pass on to him? Because he's just gonna be Americanized. Am I gonna pass language and traditions, cultures? And that's where the idea of Charro Azteca came up. Like, I need to pass something on to my child, to my firstborn son. And that's when it really hit me. I was like, shit, if my grandpa and my dad, like literally all that tradition could die with me just because I didn't pass the baton. And the idea came, and I wanted to baptize him as a little charrito for his baptism, you know. And then people started like, hey, where did you get that? Hey, where did you get that? And then the fucking light bulb just turned on. It's like, if it's that much of a big deal, then if I have that thirst and that hunger to pass on something to my children, then there might be some other people. And to my surprise, we're here in a heavily populated Mexican community in Southeast LA, and Latino community, but majority of my business goes to the East Coast, to Florida, New York. I've sent charros to Alaska. I started my company, and I still have my day job, and 6 months into it, of course, like any business that starts and fails within the first 12 months, I wanted to throw in the towel. And then a big ass order came in one day. I'm like, what the, you know, I was like, shit, like,
mostly those out-of-staters,
yeah. So this order came in from Alaska, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So let me call these people, and señores start talking in Spanish. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so grateful that you could actually send me sombreros and boots and botines and stuff like that, because we have a community here that works in the oil, and we made our bootleg Mickey Mouse coleadero, you know, but we're having to shop at boot barns over here with all Americanized, you know, Americanized apparel, Western wear, and you're the only one that ships to Alaska. So they've been my lifelong customer ever since. So just imagine the responsibility at that point where I wanted to throw in the towel, but customers, and it's always like that, customers always make me want to come back. They pull me back into the business because of the responsibility of like, hey, we depend on you to ship us out product, because if it wasn't for you, I would have to actually wait for my family to go to Mexico, bring the product, or I have to drive like 2 or 3 states to go buy from another state. And I always said, like, I always believed it, even before Charro Azteca, that a tradition, a culture, language can die in a single generation. So I consider, of course, that we are the middle passage. We hold the big responsibility of what our parents taught us, not only on the visual, of course, on the wardrobe and the music, which is one of the ways that the easiest way that we could express ourselves, but in the values that they passed on to us, like work ethic, that we're trabajadores, but we're not just trabajadores, we're fucking smart as well, So if you start kind of merging all of that, like, we have to take really big responsibility that and take it serious, that we hold that baton. And sad to say, I felt it in my community that we were just losing it, and we call it whitewash, right? Ese tiene el nopal en la frente and no quiere ni hablar español. And it's not that he can or she can, it's just that they don't want to. If someone doesn't teach you, then you go looking for it elsewhere. And that's what happened to me. And fucking, I don't want my child to grow up with the confusion that I went through, where I wanted to dress this way. I wanted to listen to this music. And I could appreciate it, but then again, is it you? And I want him to make his choice or their choice. Like, yeah, I love because I love hip hop. I love rock. But then I also love Antonio Aguilar and Las Jilguerillas, Cadetes de Linares, instead of being like, ew. Like, when I grew up, it was like, ew, you're paisa? Like, what? You're wearing freaking ostrich boots? Or you're wearing a tejana? And from other Mexicans, they're like putting me down. Like, shit, I can't even wear a tejana, because then they look at me like paisa. And paisa was a bad word. So the heartland of Zacatecas, Jalisco, Aguascalientes, Michoacán, Durango, like the little heart area, is where there's a lot of influence of charreria. And charreria is not just the guy that you see out there as the sport, but the charros were military. It was era ejército. It was the cavalry. Before tanks and all that stuff, there was horses, and they were part of the cavalry. And around that area, it was proud to be a charro. And of course, there's the rich ones, the hacendados, and there's the poor ones. And my grandpa was one of the poor ones, and his dad was one of the poor ones. So I come from that, where it was just he grew up into it. And over there, you took a lot of pride in knowing how to handle a horse, because your horse was what you use as your for sembrar, for farming, and then your lasso, and so it was very important for them as men growing up in that region to learn how to utilize that. So for them, it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna dress up for the weekend. That's what they wore, a big ass sombrero to fucking block the sun. Like, and while doing that, like, they wanted to dress appropriately, and that's how he got into it. It's not that he had a choice, it's just that's what they wore. Like, that's what they had to do to farm and to raise the cattle and everything. And while you're out there, you have fun. Like, you make it into a sport, if you have a horse and you have a lasso and you have vaquitas and like, let's fucking have some fun and let's make this into a thing. And then guess what? It ended up being into a thing. And now of course, they're not military people anymore. They're not fighting in the Mexican Revolution. Like, you see Zapata dressed as a charro, or even before then in other wars, like Mexican American wars. But now you see them as organized charreria sport, which is Mexico's official sport. So my grandpa started that way. With that being said, there came a point where inflation was horrible in Mexico, and American companies were going and they were doing their corn and genetically modified corn, which it was growing faster and everything. So imagine organic versus genetically modified. So my grandpa's farm started struggling because American companies started coming in. So my father had no choice. It was like, you know what? There's no work here, so let's go up north. And around 18 years old is when he came over here. Yeah. And by then he already had met my mom, and they were pregnant with me. So I was made in Mexico. So then he came over here to supposedly make a little money and go back. But then my mom, in the middle of the thing, she said, the heck with this, 7 months pregnant, who cares? Let me cross the border so at least I could have a better opportunity, that's the story that I grew up with, and that story always made me kind of stay away from the stuff that a lot of people easily get kind of attracted to, you know, like gang violence around the 90s was real bad in Southeast LA, in South Central LA. So what happened was that every single time that something like, oh shit, they're doing drugs, or hey, there's like kids doing bad stuff, and then I was like, fuck, did my mom really cross the border for this? So it was just the North Star that I always had to kind of like, hey, like, and it would have been so easy, because for a lot of us growing up here, it's so freaking easy for us just to make one bad decision and it gets you into a gang, or it makes you a bad decision and you steal and you go to jail. One little simple decision like that, or easy decision like that, could just direct your life into a whole different stratosphere. So I think that story like kept me norteado and kept me going. I wasn't the best. I hated freaking school, and I still fucking hate school. But at least it kept me like, you know what? At least that's not for me. I can't let that happen to my family. Like for me, it just felt always that I was considered Mexican. So for me, I could go down the street and I saw our people. Like I went to school and freaking 99% it was Latino or Mexican, you know. So for me, always growing up, it was always like, this is what it. And for me, I never traveled. So for me, I didn't go out to other communities. So my whole entire youth was always like in here, Bell, Maywood, Cudahy, Bell Garden. So it was kind of weird. So then until like all through my school years, it was always brown. And then once I go to college, I was like, what the fuck? Samoans and white and Asian. It was just a culture shock. For me, I relate a lot to black people, like, because they were our neighbors, you know. We broke bread together, we shared tacos, and we shared music. So for me, black and brown, that's who I grew up with. For me, it was a little bit different when it was like afterwards my professional career, like dealing with Caucasian. It was just a little bit awkward at the beginning, just to, oh shit, like there's different kind of humanity. Like you always knew it, but growing up like that in this Southeast LA, it's like it is what it is. Like your neighbor's gonna be 99.9% is gonna be a Latino, you know. I grew up Mexican, thinking I was Mexican, until you go to Mexico and then you're not Mexican. Then that's like, what the fuck? Like my whole entire life I thought I was Mexican, because when I'm here I'm not American. And then I go to Mexico and you're like, hey, you're not Mexican, you're American. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Yo soy el gringo, you know? And then I go to the motherland, the fatherland, and I'm not. I'm like, oh shit, what the hell? Like, what am I then? And like, and that confusion right there, it strays a lot of kids. Like I could picture it, where if you didn't grow, if you are from a Latino bloodline, or Mexican, Guatemalan, Salvadoran, whatever you are, but if you grew up in another city that it was more predominantly Caucasian, like you wouldn't consider yourself, like you lose your language. And I started noticing now, because my wife is from Whittier, she grew up strictly Caucasian, and she, when she met me, she was like, she just said, I don't know, like I grew up with white people. Like my parents, of course, are Mexican, but I just grew up with white people. So I didn't know, I thought I was white for a long time, until even for her, it was hard, because then her white friends are telling her, nah, dude, you're not white. You're not one of us. But then she thought, over here, for me, at least it was easy. Like for me, my neighbors, like, were brown. Some of the ways that we express ourselves as humans, it's by what we listen to and by what we wear. If you look at somebody in the street or in their car and they're bumping something, you already know what kind of person they are. But then if they get off their car and they're wearing some huaraches, or they're wearing some cowboy boots, or a tejana, or they're wearing the Dodger hat, you already could picture where they're at, you know, or a business suit. So that's what I mean. Like the way what you wear is a way to express yourself. And I wanted to show my expression through my son with the charrito suit. And there's people now around the country that are trying to express themselves through a quinceañera or a charro wedding, because They might be a professional, they might be working 9 to 5, but for the one time in their whole entire life, they want to dress as a charro. And it's kind of crazy, but once you wear a charro suit, it makes you feel a certain way. It makes you like your chest goes a little higher, like you pump and everything. So I just feel like I provide that. And it's not that much. Of course, you're in LA, you could go down the street and you have a ton of places, but those people that don't in the other side of the country, you know, like I feel like those are the people that are, even with business, is not easy. Business is hard. It's fucking hard. I gotta say, it's fucking hard. But these people, my customers that kind of hit me up and like, hey, thank you for being in existence, those are the people that kind of keep me going, keep me like, oh shit, I can't let them down. I can't. For me, school was my job. Fortunately, I got into finance, and I had the opportunity to have these kind of conversations that me and you are having on a daily basis, but with business entrepreneurs, successful, unsuccessful, you know, white, black, Latino, didn't matter. And all I kept getting is, that was my school. That's when I was learning business, not from a book or from a professor, but from people that were actually doing the daily in and out business. So that's where I got a lot of my,
that's where you got the itch for entrepreneurs.
because I knew it. Like, I was working a job of being a business banker, teaching these business owners how to do their finances, how to get lending. And then I was there 13 years having a job, like a 9 to 5.
When did this happen? When did you decide to start your business?
2015. My wife was pregnant in 2014. And then that's when the whole thing started, like, oh shit, it's not about me anymore. It's about us, a family. And then my son was born in December 2014, and January 2015 is when I launched the website. So that's when the whole thing started, but with the intention of actually that I was going to make it into a business, because I've been talking to these business people and I've been a business banker for such a long time that I didn't take it as like a hobby like a lot of people do. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do a weekend job, or let me see how it works out. Like, I came in there with my business plan. I came in there with my marketing plan. Like, I had a vision. What I am at right now, I knew I was going to be here. I didn't have no doubt. I already knew that in my mind, when I started my business in 2015, while I was making good money on my day job, I already knew that one day I was going to quit my job to do this full time, because I had a plan. Not just because I started a business, but because I actually planned it and I envisioned it. And most importantly, I worked at it every fucking day to get here. You should just do something. Like, while you're getting your job, I think it's dumb if you actually take the leap into a business and you don't have a plan B. Like, keep your fucking job. Like, you got bills to pay, you got responsibilities. But guess what? There's 24 hours in a day. You know, do your 9 to 5, but fucking wake up early from 5 in the morning till 8 in the morning. You could do something. And then when you get back from work, do your job, do your business again. Don't fucking go on Netflix. Don't go fucking party with your boys or your girls. Like, start thinking like, we all got 24 hours. So your job is going to take 8 or 9 hours, but what the fuck are you doing with the rest? Do something. And the whole passion thing, do something you're good at, because even though you might love something and you're not good at it, you're going to lose that passion like this, because passion only, it's like lust. You lust for it right now, but guess what happens tomorrow? You don't lust for it anymore. So you might have to do something that your God or whatever you believe in, te dieron un don. You know, they gave you something that you're talented. Some people are good at videographer, like my videographer right here, right? Some people are good interviewees. Some people are good at business. Some people are good soccer players. Some people are good accountants. Whatever your don is, whatever they give to you, know that you're good at that for a reason. And now, because when you get wins, you fall in love with the process because you're good at something. But if you're like that person that's just like a fucking mariposa, just fucking going from one flower to another, like, you are gonna lose that passion. So I would say, if you're good at something, pursue it. And if you want to start a business, you better be fucking prepared to do this shit for free for at least 2 years. Because everybody right now wants it like right now, instant gratification, you know. Like, people just forget that nature has a law, which is you plant, you cultivate, and you harvest. And that's one thing I learned from my pops, because sembraron maíz. You plant, you cultivate, and you harvest. But people right now just want to plant on January 1st their gym membership, and they want to harvest in 30 days having a six-pack. Or a lot of people right now, it's in style to be an entrepreneur, and they want to open up a fucking Instagram page saying, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, and fucking within 6 months they fucking swear they're gonna become a millionaire, because they want to skip the middle part, which is cultivate. Water every fucking day. Water every fucking day. Work. And people just want to skip that and go straight to the harvest. And so what I feel is like, young people that are watching, you don't deserve shit. You don't feel entitled to anything. You don't deserve anything. If you're, whatever you have right now is what you deserve. Not because of your skin color, or not because of who gave it to you, but because of your thoughts and your actions. And if you're stuck somewhere, guess what? That's where you deserve to be. So if you're not happy where you're at, no one's gonna come and rescue you with the fucking magic wand. The government's not gonna come here. Bernie Sanders is not gonna come here and save your ass. I don't even give a fuck about Donald Trump. He doesn't control me. Like, I lived through so many presidents, and none of them have affected me directly. Like, literally directly. Like, so who controls your destiny? Who controls your life? You, not your parents, not anybody else. So what I say to young people is like, you don't deserve shit. Like don't wait for opportunities. Make your own opportunities, right? So the Mexican American dream, what I mean about that is like, fuck, helping our people, we have our company, we have our podcast, YouTube channels, our Instagram, and you're here talking to me because of that. And that's my Mexican American dream. It's like something that this is going to be on the internet forever. And instead of putting titties and ass and my cars and shit like that and flaunting what I have to think that, what is my child gonna look at 20 years from now? How much do I wish my grandpa or my dad would have recorded when they were my age, their experiences or their knowledge? Now my child and his child and his child through generations are gonna be able to hear a podcast about his grandpa, or watch this video and see like, damn, that's my grandpa, that's my great grandpa, that's my dad. How much I would wish to see that. I always feel that every person has 3 duties. One, the most important, is to yourself. First take care of you, and once you take care of you, then take care of your family, and then once you take care of your family, you take care of your community. I think it's hard to change the world, and there's a lot of people that want to change the fucking world, but they haven't even fucking changed themselves. And you see that online, judging everything. Oh, you shouldn't do this, or you should live your life like that, or you should follow this politician, or you should do that. There's a lot of people just fucking tweeting all the damn, I call them keyboard warriors. They have opinion about everything, but they have an opinion how to change shit, but they don't change stuff with themselves. So to answer your question, it felt good because I took care of me, and then I took care of my family, and I want to take care of my community, and I want to take care of my community here in Southeast LA. My business is located here in Bell. I grew up in Bell, and what do I want to do? I want to provide jobs to people in Bell, because I know how important it was for me. And if I could have those millennials that, like my niece, that wasn't spoken to Spanish, but I have her here working for me, pushing her buttons to speak Spanish, and now she's actually dressing with huaraches and fucking like Mexican, when she didn't have that. She wasn't raised like that. So that's where I'm at right now. I took care of me, I took care of my family, now I need to take care of my community. Everybody's an entrepreneur right now. If I could find another word for me, I would call myself that, just because I don't want to be associated with all these people that open up an Instagram page and they put entrepreneur and they're entrepreneurs. I think it's cool. Everybody thinks it's cool to be an entrepreneur. I think right now it's the barrier of entry is so easy that everybody thinks that they could be an entrepreneur. but you really have to go through the pain. You're not on like they say, you're not a real motorcycle biker, and like there's two kind of bikers, the ones that fell or the ones that are gonna fall. You know, for me, you're not an entrepreneur until you failed or you're gonna fail. Like you already failed or you're going to fail, because entrepreneurship is not pretty pink roses and rainbows. Everything, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, starting is one thing, figuring it out, then creating your systems, finding your products, the money. That when it comes into business, like, yeah, you might be thinking it's glorious, you know, once you actually, oh shit, finally we're making some money. But guess what? When you get more money, now you get more problems. You got to run payroll. You got people depending on your business to succeed. And in this world of age of the internet, you got to innovate every single day, and you got to think to yourself, and I think to myself, that there's somebody out there in this country with a whiteboard and they have my Charro Azteca logo with my face, and they're like, fuck, every single day they're waking up, they're like, I'm gonna take that fucker out of business. And that's what motivates me, that someone out there in this fucking country is out there aiming for my ass. So that's my motivation, that I have to keep innovating, because there's someone out there that's trying to take me out of business. And that's the thing that keeps motivating me. And it's hard. Shit changes, especially in the online business. Algorithms change. Instagram could change the rules today and cancel my page. Facebook could do that. You know, I brand myself as a Mexican American product, like a authentic Mexican product retailer. So what that means is that I sell authentic Mexican products. I'm pretty broad. So how I find out my products is because my customers request them from me. So when we don't have a product in our website, they already know that they could hit us up through Instagram or whatever social media, or directly to our customer service. They're like, hey, do you guys have this? Do you guys have this? And when the answer keeps coming up that it's no, guess what I start doing? I start doing my research. I need to find somebody in Mexico that gets this product. So I kind of flip it, where a lot of people start businesses where like, hey, I want to find customers for the product I have, but I flip it around where I have to find products for the customers I have. So I already have the customers, I just have to find the product. And that's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of entrepreneurs and young people have, is like, oh, I have the shiniest fucking product, or I have the best tacos in the world. But the shit about it is like, you're not fulfilling a problem. Like, what's the whole point of you having the shiniest product or the best fucking tacos or the best whatever if no one wants your product? So what I do is just like, I flip it around. I have the customer first, and then they start telling me what they want, and then I go find it.
You're a problem solver.
That's all it is. Business is all about problem solving, bro. Like, you shouldn't even get in, like, all these people that want to freaking start a business and they want to make money. I think the only ones that deserve all that, you know, that abundance, is people that are problem solvers. You know, whoever invented this mic solved the problem. Whoever invented the camera that they're recording, they solved the problem. Fucking, that's what business is all about. You're not scheming. You're not fucking trying to take people's money. You're trying to solve a problem, bring value to your customer, and then they'll be gladly give you the money. You know, take my money, because you actually are you're solving a problem they have. I think you don't take anything with you, but you leave everything behind. And that's what legacy is. I think once you die, you go as naked as how you came into the world, but you will leave everything behind. Nipsey Hussle, which is one of the people that I admire the most, he died young, but he left everything behind. And in his lifetime, guess what? His lyrics are gonna live long before anything, because he provided value to his community, you know, and not only his community but our community as well, because we're so close to each other. Like Antonio Aguilar, he did the same. He died and he left a legacy with his son, and then his son is trying to pass that with his daughter and his son, you know. So legacy is what you're gonna leave behind, what people are gonna think about you, and what inspiration you're gonna leave. So when I die, like I said, I gotta take care of me first and take care of my children and my family. But then for my community, I want to leave the legacy that I was here and I left something behind. It could be Charro Azteca, it could be education, it could be my podcast, something that they could actually superar, something that they could take. Because I think if you're doing it for selfish reasons, then you are working for you being selfish, and you're not. So I work for legacy, to be honest. That's my motivation. The crab mentality, just so people can know, I got that from one of my clients in business, and he was a Jewish guy, freaking successful as guy, and he told me, I love your people. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, I love your people. Like, why? Like, you guys are hard workers. Guess who all my tenants are in my properties? Mexican. And guess who all my workers in my companies are? Mexican. So I love your people. And he goes, like, what the hell? So I kind of got offended, but then he started telling me about the crab mentality. He goes, look, in other communities, like in my community, when a Jewish person or one of our family members wants to start a business, we help them with their business. Asian communities are the same. But in your community, he told me, like, straight up, one of them has to always kind of pull each other down. Like, you guys live off of negativity, and we see that. Other communities, other cultures see that. So what they do is they hire us and we rent from them. So the money just keeps going in circles. They give us a job, and then we use the same money from that job to pay rent, which is going back to their community. It's never staying in here. And when he told me, it's like, he told me the story. He goes, look, a fisherman is in the sea, and there's Jewish crab and there's Mexican crab. And when they land, they only have one lid to put in the bucket. And guess where that lid is going to go to? It's going to go into the Jewish crab bucket. And he told me, why? Because look at the Jewish crab bucket. When one crab is trying to get out of the bucket, they pull another one out with them. Next thing you know, there's no crabs in there in the bucket. But look at the Mexican crab bucket. When one crab is about to get out of the bucket, there's like 10 crabs at the bottom pulling them down. So you don't have to ever worry about that bucket ever being fucking empty. And look at what that bucket is. That bucket is fucking 9 to 5, entrepreneurship, the rat race. Like, we're always being stuck, And that's what the bucket is. Like, the Mexican crab mentality is that we're always pulling each other down. We're never like, hey, look at that raza, like, good for them. No, it's pinche narco, Look at, he's dressing nice, he's selling drugs. Like, there's always some point of negativity, right? Like, and it always happens with family members. Míralo, ya se cree bien chingón porque está manejando un carro nuevo or whatever. There's never a congratulations. Oh, you're gonna start a business. Oh, you're gonna fail, bro. Like, in behind. There's always that negativity, and that's what the Mexican crab mentality is, where we should be rooting for each other, because as a collective mindset, that's gonna make us better. And I do believe thoughts are things, and if I wish you well, I'm giving you this positive vibe. And I'm a strong believer in energies. I think we always see that there's only two sides of a coin, heads or tails, A or B, but I think that there's a third side of the coin, which is the edge. And a lot of us are not on the edge. We cannot understand the other side. We always like, fuck them because they hate on me. Kind of like, fuck Trump, or fuck Trump supporters. But that's two-sided coin. How about you stay on the edge, and if you know how they grew up, and how they think, you could have some little bit of empathy. And I'm not trying to support them. I'm just trying to always have two sides of a coin. Like, when you see somebody being successful and you're not, like, it's hard to fucking wish them well. But put yourself in their shoes and be on the edge. And I think one of the things as well is that we don't ask for help. We have this machismo thing, like, fuck it, I'm gonna figure it out myself. And we're afraid to ask for help because we're afraid that they're not gonna help us. But you'll be surprised that successful people want to help. That if you just ask a successful person how to build their business, they want to give. because that's how they became successful, by giving, by solving a problem. But a lot of our people, it's like, se es muy creído. Like, are you sure about that? Because if you ask them for help, I could guarantee you most of the time they will extend a hand. This is my opinion, but the first thing is to try to stop being a consumer and being a producer. And what I mean by that is that we're the perfect consumer in this country. Why do you think Adidas most sold jersey is the Mexican jersey? You know, the Mexico jersey. Like, think about how other people have liquor stores in our communities that are not Latino owned. Look at how many properties. If you look at the title of properties in Bell, Huntington Park, or Southeast LA, I could guarantee you that only a short of them are Latino owned properties. Majority of them go to another community. Why? Because we're consumers. We love to consume. And sad to say, I'm gonna put, if the shoe fits, I might hurt some feelings, but if you're fucking driving a trocona or un carrazo on 24-inch rims with a badass system, and you're fucking going parking to your mama's house, then that's part of the problem. Now look at what our mind has a consumer mentality. Consume. You give a Mexican kid $100 and he'll spend $150. You know why? Because he wants to have a nice ride, a nice clothes for the girls. And same thing for girls. Like, it's that consumer mentality. So I think we have to get out of that mentality of consumerism and become a producer. Produce jobs, produce products, produce technology, produce everything. And that's when we start kind of getting out of this, because as long as we keep consuming, our hard-earned money is only gonna go to taxes, to fucking taxes again, and then to your rims, and to your car payment, and to your landlord. And then by the end, you're never gonna have any savings. You're never gonna have anything. You're just gonna be consuming all the time.
Can our generation change that?
You could change anything in a generation, bro. Have faith. I think anything could die or survive or fucking be excelled in one generation. So I just think it takes platforms like yours, it takes platforms like mine, to wake people up. You know, a lot of the times, some of the consumerism, it's influenced by of course what you see on social media. Like I say, the people, how they want to express themselves, and sometimes it doesn't help when singers, all they keep talking about is chicks, cars, money, drugs, and shit like that, which makes us get deeper into consumerism. So I think it could start, and it could be a lot of help by the people we look up to. You know, there's a saying that says you could tell a lot about a culture by the role models that they have, by the heroes that they admire. So what kind of heroes are we admiring? El Chapo, you know, Malverde. You know, what kind of heroes do we as a culture have? And once we start having heroes like MLK or Nipsey or stuff like that, sad to say, they had to become martyrs. You know, they had to die. But I think once we start being woken up like that, and especially in music or television, because look at all those novelas, dude. All the fucking chicks are fucking big booties and fucking small waist, and look at what our young girls want to do. They want to be like that, especially now on Instagram. Everybody wants to be the fake filtered life, you know. So I think that's one of the things that we have to change. If a culture wants to superarse, we have to look at what kind of heroes are we admiring as a community as a whole. More money could either sink you or it could launch you, and you just have to start setting up your system. So right now it's figuring it out. I have to work. So when you're starting up your company, you're working in the business. When I was in startup mode, I was the shipper, I was the marketer, I was the customer service rep, I was the boss, I was everything. I was working in the business. Once you start scaling, it's hard to let go, because now you have to work on the business. You don't have to work in. And that's the biggest mistake anybody could do. Work in the business instead of on the business. And you have to start hiring people to take care of the shipping, the marketing, the service, so you could kind of have extra time to make sure you could work on the business, to make sure you make those money moves to scale. When I wake up at 5 a.m, I have my morning routine, and when I'm awake, I'm listening to marketing podcasts. I'm listening to audiobooks. When I'm driving to my commute here, I'm not bumping music. I'm listening to marketing books or marketing podcasts. If I have some downtime, I'm not there just chilling. I'm listening to something or I'm reading a book. So one thing that I could guarantee from a lot of people is that I'm always trying to perfect my craft. If you tell me to chop down a tree in 6 hours, I'm going to spend 5 hours sharpening my axe. So then in the last hour, I just fucking knock that thing down. But a lot of people are not sharpening their brain. All they think is like, oh, I'm going to go into business. So on a daily basis, I'm listening to at least 8 hours minimum of podcasts and audiobooks. So that's how I keep up to date. And that's my job, working on the business. I have to keep up to date with everything, having conversations with mentors, having conversations with other people that know marketing. Hey, have you tried this? Oh, no, I haven't, but I've tried this. Hey, let me try it as well. Having those conversations. So that's how I approach marketing, that I'm going to devour all of this, try it, apply it. And if it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, it didn't. Let me try something else. Most importantly, I think everybody could dream big, but it's just applying your goals, like turning that dream into a goal, because people are usually always living in the clouds. But remember that when you're dreaming, you're asleep, and dreams are only happening when you're sleeping. A dream that's when you're awake is a goal in reality. So people always have dreams, but I think you shouldn't have dreams. I think you should have goals.